So this isn't a good angle. Sitting back in a chair is not a good angle for playing the flute. This is actually quite a challenging flute to play. There's no fipple. It's just a hollow tube. And you have to, I realize there's a lesson in here. You have to cut, the air has to be split right in half. So you have to aim it with just enough force. See if I change the angle. Angle's got to be just right. And I realized as I was doing that that is a metaphor for how to live this life. I'll share with you where this is coming from. See if I can put this feeling that I'm experiencing into words. So, bouncing around Netflix, and I don't know if I've watched it a couple of times, but the Marco Polo Netflix series, which I'm sure almost none of it is historical, but you know there's that offshoot of his kung fu teacher, 100 Eyes, and in that offshoot, he gets captured because he's this badass martial artist, and the Mongols come and take over the Taoist mountain of Wudangshan, which is where the martial Taoists are known to have practiced. And this Wudangshan master monk, takes out 25 trained, armed Mongol warriors, and so they bring him back to Kublai Khan, and he says, "So what do I do with you? You're not afraid of death." And he says, the monk says, "I don't cling to life. There's a difference." And that line in and of itself is worth more than the entire, show, which was entertaining, but that really, there's so much truth to that. I don't know that somebody could have no fear of death and be sane, unless they were, 100 years old and dying of some horrific disease, and then it's like, death is better. But I've watched people die, and some of them were quite frightened, and I don't imagine it would be any different for me. So I would love to have that. I would love to be that, where I wasn't necessarily fearless about death, because again, I can't relate to that. But the idea of not clinging to life. And, he talked about life and death being a thread, being, part of a thread. In other words, you can't separate it. I'm doing quite well physically. I'm probably, as healthy as I've ever been. I feel like I might be the healthiest I've ever been in my life. But I am not unaware that, I can see it now. I've just turned 56, so I'm not ancient, but, people die. Everyone dies. I will die someday. Hopefully not before I've surfed all the waves I want to surf. But someday I will die. And I love that idea of not clinging to life, because I've seen that create tremendous misery. And then I started thinking about clinging to life. And I've talked about when you live in the now, My ancestors called it the web of weird, where there are three primal forces of the universe, feminine giantesses who weave with the energy of life force energy of space time. They weave it into what we perceive as destiny, which is existence. And the present is called the immediate, ever present, ever unfolding now, the present moment. Try and capture the present moment and hold on to it. You can't do it. It's impossible. It's like, I remember in high school smoking weed, which I don't do now, but I remember, when you're really stoned on weed, you say something and then you're like, wow, man, did I just say that or did I think that? Oh my God, did I just say that? Because you're trying to grab onto the moment and it's like it keeps slipping past you. And that's the present moment. You can't bottle it and save it. And I was thinking about health, and I've noticed that some people who are really physically ill are people who are desperately trying not to get sick, and they spend money on, superficial stuff like, you know, plastic surgery, and they think it looks good. I mean, I don't know. I guess if plastic surgery is really good and you can't tell it's been done, I wouldn't know. I would look at it and wouldn't know. But you see people where it's really obvious that they've had plastic surgery and it just looks ridiculous. They look like mannequins. They look they would look so much better if they just had wrinkles. And when I think about physical health and trying to hold on to your youth and hold on to your health, trying to, we do that by trying to hold on to money. And people work their ass off. I'm thinking of somebody that I know who talked about working his ass off all the time, and that his wife worked crazy hours, something like 60, 80 hours a week or something, and did this nonstop. She was never home. She was always off, traveling, doing her thing. And her goal was to work her ass off without having a life, getting 4 hours of sleep and not having a life and not spending any time with her husband, so she could build up a bunch of money and then retire. And I remember him talking to me about that, and he was stressed out about this, and they were going to buy this house or buy, this piece of property, and they're going to invest in this, and he's stressed out all the time about money and all that. And and I hear this plan that he recounts that his wife plans to do, and I'm like, what for? You're going to then, what are you going to do when you retire? After having worked that hard for that long, you're just going to just automatically turn it off and what? Sit around and drink margaritas? No way. You'd come apart at the seams. Nobody functions like that. And what kind of a life is that? You're spending your whole life just frantically trying to stave off death in the future because you're going to be old, right? These people are a little older than I am, so they're trying to get ready for retirement, and they're just thinking in very linear terms. They obviously don't really enjoy what they're doing, because I don't. First off, I don't work. What I do for a living, I would do anyway. It's literally how I would live my life. I'm living my life exactly the way I want to live it. And I happen to get paid. By the way, up here, neo.thunderwizard.com, the first one, find your perfect career. Your perfect career that you are destined for, and that's everybody listening to me, everybody that's ever been born, ever will be born, and ever has been born. Your destiny is to get paid to simply be your authentic self. When you are your authentic self, there will be something that you offer to the world that they will pay you for, that you can say is your job. You will never have to say, "What should I do for a living?" if you are truly connected to who you truly are. And this is what life is all about. There is nothing more to enlightenment, to get back to the title of it, there's nothing more to enlightenment than simply living your authentic life. That's it. You can't get anything better than that. Enlightenment is not this state of being where you have no problems and you have no feelings. The Western world, people who seek after enlightenment, who go to all of the New Age seminars, who go and listen to the channelers, who go, all that stuff, the vast majority of them are people who are seeking to escape their feelings. And we mistake it for spirituality. Love and light, everything is love and light. It's not. Life is intense, man. And understand this isn't a punishment. You chose to be here because your soul was so strong. I don't care how messed up your life is, how amazing it is. Your soul was so strong that you were allowed the privilege to incarnate. We forget when we get here, and that's part of the whole challenge, is to remember. And we get here and we complain, and then we come up with all this victim mentality garbage about how we're trapped in karma and reincarnation. Karma is real. Karma just means action. And you have far more positive karma going for you if you are breathing and your heart is beating than negative. Because if the negative overcame the positive like you think it does, was you're complaining about how we're trapped in this matrix and this and the elites are doing it. While you're complaining about that, your heart is beating, your lungs are working, your liver's working, your kidneys are working, you got a roof over your head. If you're functioning and alive, you have far more positive karma than negative. If your negative karma overcomes your positive karma, you will die. I think there's two ways to die. One is that your negative karma overcomes, which, is a huge, huge feat. Or you've lived out what your soul has decided it wants to do, even if that means getting hit by a car or eaten by a shark or whatever it is. Those, fall in line. The Steve Irwin guy. That guy died doing what he loved. He was out swimming in the ocean, and he was swimming behind a stingray, and its tail came up. It thought it was being attacked because it saw his shadow over him and thought he was a shark probably, and threw his tail up, and it went in, right in between his ribs and cut his heart, and they pulled him into the boat and he died. That's a guy who lived his life, and he died doing what he wanted to do. He had X amount of years, and he said, "I want to spend every single moment of that doing what I love, and I want to die doing what I love." He did. Mark Fu, the guy, you probably don't know about him, in the 90s, I believe. He was a very famous surfer from Hawaii. And this was before they realized that there were big waves outside of Hawaii, and they went to Northern California to a place called Mavericks, which now is all over the world. But then it was like, wow, there's big waves someplace outside of Hawaii. And this Hawaiian guy paddled out, and I don't know what his mindset was, but the rest of us were assuming he probably thought, "Oh, I got this. I've surfed Waimea Bay." And he went out, and he fell and got held under and was down there long enough that he drowned. Really dangerous. That's a guy who died doing what he loved. He was a surfer. His whole life was about big wave surfing. He died surfing a big wave. I have no doubt that guy wanted to go that way. So those are the two ways to go. Either your negative karma overtakes you, which is a big feat, or you live, you know, as much as your life that you've got. You know, I'm thinking of a relative who died of old age, who, from my perspective, was not a healthy, happy person. By the time this person died, they were senile and had been senile for years and just died, of old age. And that's one where I see that they had, 90 something years of life that they had been given. And so they lived out all of that 90 something years, but they weren't living in the flow of life. I don't think so. I don't think it's possible to live in the flow of life and not be conscious and aware and happy. I'm sure there are some souls that choose to experience some challenges. So I'm not going to make a blanket statement, but there's a guy out here in Australia. I talked about him in the last video. Really inspiring to me. Who is my age, maybe a year or two older than me, and he'd been living a healthy lifestyle. He, um, his earlier life, he was, was not living a healthy lifestyle. We'll just put it that way. And then he decided to start living a healthy lifestyle. And out of nowhere, he got cirrhosis of the liver cancer, and diabetes. And the doctors were like, "You're done. Your time here is limited." And so he didn't try to grasp onto life. He tried to set things up to put his family in order, and he lived his life and enjoyed his life, and decided to stay, in appreciation of life, letting go, facing and letting go of resentment and anger and selfishness, and he lived for being in the moment and appreciating every moment that he had. And lo and behold, all of his symptoms have left. He no longer has any of those things. That guy's if there is such a thing as a guru, that guy's it, because, we talk about it. Spiritual teachers talk about how to be, spiritual and happy, and they blah, blah, blah. That guy proved it. So whatever he did proved it. But that he proves my belief about health and the body. I believe that the body stays healthy when we are connected and in the flow of our soul. So, what is your soul? Think about light, photons of light, and try and get a photon and capture it. Other than, not on film, because that's just like it sort of leaves an imprint, but it's, that's what paper photographs. I guess all photos are that way. They're just imprints of photons, but they're not really. Try and capture a photon. You can't do it. It just goes right through. The way photons are made is that in the intense gravity of the sun, hydrogen atoms are smashed, and the fusion, the destruction of those hydrogen atoms creates photons, and these photons bounce back and forth inside of the sun for something like 10,000 years or a million years or something really crazy like that, 100,000 years, I don't even know, before it finds its way and it's able to finally get out of the sun and, and leave, and then shoot at the speed of light towards, wherever it's going. That is the spirit. That is the soul. I can't prove it. I'm only going off of an experience I had where I left my body as a kid when I was 7 years old, and I went to whatever you want to call the sources. Back then I was a Christian, so I called it Jesus. But years later, after having walked away from Christianity and thinking, well, what about that time? Oh, wait, hang on. That light never said who or what it was. But that's what I experienced. So I left my body and my soul got pulled towards this incredibly brilliant light that was brighter than anything that the human eye could handle. If we were to look at it with our eyes, our eyeballs would burn out of our sockets. And I went and I was pulled into that light and I experienced unbelievable orgasmic joy that was bordering on uncomfortable. In fact, the first few moments of merging with it was extremely uncomfortable. It was too much. And then I had to really just let go. I couldn't, it forced me to just let go of everything. And then I became one with that. And I remember saying, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. And I was so happy. And then that light started to fade and I started to fall back towards earth and I was weeping. No, no, no. And then I woke up back in my body. And I've often wondered why I had that experience. At that same experience, according to my mother, what I remember is actually, what am I saying? It wasn't the same experience. It was in that same time frame though. We could say I was hallucinating. I'm okay with that, but I was sick with scarlet fever, and I was my fever got very high, and I left my body. I was floating on top of my body, and I was looking at through my doorway into the hallway there, and there was this being of light, and the light was so bright. The light coming off of the face of what felt like a female entity, which I look back on it now was what my ancestors would have called the Disir, the the feminine ancestors who watch over us. I called it a guardian angel because I was a Christian and that's all I knew. But the light from the face of that was so bright I couldn't see any details, but I knew she was smiling. And she was looking down at me and smiling, and she was just radiating, and she had this white silver, looked like a white silver gown that went all the way to the floor. I couldn't see her feet. I couldn't see anything. I could see the outline of an entity and the face, and it was so bright I couldn't tell what was going on other than that. And I got downloaded some information that I've been decoding since then, and it's turned out to be true, what I was told. So I'm giving you these two experiences of the light, and I tried to find a picture that kind of embodied that. And that's not really it. But that is life. Life is that. It's this orgasmic, blissful joy in light. You can't separate them. It's this blissful, orgasmic, blissful light. And this isn't something that we get to experience after we die. You will, but that's not what it is. What we are designed to do and what we keep coming here choosing to learn in all the different circumstances is to live in that flow. Like I said, try and grab a photon and put it in a mason jar. You won't be able to do it. You can't do that with life. You can't grab life and hold on to it and stuff it away somewhere. The only way to live it is like 100 Eyes said, is not to cling. And in that, when I heard him say that in that moment, that he wasn't afraid of that it wasn't that he wasn't afraid of death, he just didn't cling to life. I said, that's how you are fully, completely absorbed in life, is when you're not clinging to it. And when we get afraid, we try and cling to things. We try to cling to people, try to cling to. Uh, sorry, I'm distracted because it sounds like there was a traffic accident out there. When we try and cling to life, when we try and cling to relationships, when we try and gather and cling to money, when we try to cling to getting acceptance from others. For a second there, I thought I was going to go run out and see what they did, but you know what? I'm on vacation here. I'm not. I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to go call the police and report anybody. I think maybe somebody crashed into a car. Um, so this is life. This is enlightenment, and it is a fiercely intense, frightening experience. This is why we act self-destructively. We act self-destructively because we're trying to avoid the dissolution of self that happens when you're in that light. Because when I went to that light, I all of me disintegrated, and the only thing that was left was pure orgasmic bliss and awareness. That's it. It was the only thing that was left. So the way that we do that is we live in the moment. There is one method that I know of that works. It's only one that I know of. And that is what I lay out in the neo.thunderwizard.com. I lay that out in those 4 steps, especially the first one. And that is following, again, I'm sorry, I'm distracted. I'm hearing stuff going on out there and I'm distracted. Following what gives you the greatest joy. And you'd think on paper, oh, just do what makes you happy. Oh, that's easy. Really? Go do it. Go live, make yourself happy, even if that means you get rejected by family, friends, society, religion. Go do what makes you happy, even though you have no way of knowing whether or not you will survive monetarily. This is what I mean. So often when I talk to people, when they come to career consultations for me, which is where I help them find out what it is that makes them happy, which is where your money is. You want to be rich? Go find out what makes you happy. And then go do it. And there will be a way for you to make a living, a very good living doing it. Whatever a good living is to you. What's a good living to me might not be good enough for you. Or maybe what's, what you think is enough money might not be enough for me. But whatever that is, whatever that idea of wealth is that you need for your soul to be happy, you will have if you listen to it, if you obey it. In the book that I wrote, which is called The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life, I chose those words carefully. It is a command. Your soul is commanding you to follow your spiritual bliss. If you do not, you will pay a price. And oftentimes that is your physical health. So trying to cling to safety will kill you. So what I thought when I heard him say, I don't cling to life. It's not that I'm not afraid of death. It's that I don't cling to life. And my thought was, that's why. You're alive. What kills you is when you cling to life. You try and grab it and hold on to it, and out of fear, try and keep it. That kills you. The ironic thing is being willing to die at any moment, living your truth, is what not only keeps you alive, but what allows that light to flow into all of the cells of your body. Into all of the cells of your body. And when you are fully committed, my ancestors knew exactly what they were talking about. They said, those who die in battle go to Valhalla. The battle is the battle to live your bliss against what society wants to tell you to do. Your mom, your dad, your parents, your priests. When they tell you this is how you're supposed to be, and you fight against that because your soul is saying, I want to do something else, that's the battle. And when you die in that battle to stay connected to your greatest happiness, you are in Valhalla. You are in heaven. I'm predicting, I'll let you know if it happens or not. And I'm okay if it doesn't, but it feels to me like something really huge is about to come my way. And I won't lie to you, I'm quite frightened of it. Excited and frightened. And I could be totally wrong, but I'll let you know. I'm thinking about this because in order to face what I think is coming for me, I have to let go of trying to grasp. And that's when my fears come in. My fears say, I've got to hold on to this, I got to protect myself from this, I got to do that. And then I make myself miserable. And then my body, the way that my body reacts to that is I get pain. I get pain in the joints, or I get pain, muscle spasms. So when that happens, especially like if my knee starts to get stiff and I have pain in the back of my knee, then I know I'm holding on to something, and I'm unconsciously fighting my evolution. Something big is coming and I'm fighting it. That's one of the ways I know. So I've had that recently. So, don't really know what I'm saying here, except that, true enlightenment is not this blissing out like you've just, injected, a bunch of heroin and you're just going to bliss out. True enlightenment, when you're in the physical body, is, it can feel really intense. Like those first few seconds when I merged with the light, it was really uncomfortable. And what was uncomfortable was my limitation. I was having to drop all of my limitations. The light was like burning it away, and it was uncomfortable. And then when I relaxed into it, it was so amazingly, the most amazing bliss. And now I realize that I organized that experience so that I could be teaching now about how to follow your true joy, because that is your soul. The essence of your soul is that intense blissful joy. So if you want to learn how to do that, you go to neo.thunderwizard.com. If you want to look at any of my books, my DVDs, any of my teachings, any of my readings, go to courses.thunderwizard.com, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button. All right, that's it for me for the time being. I will talk to you guys soon.